Welcome to Star Lab Lesson 4, Native American Constellations. We know that long ago, many cultures looked up into the night sky and they saw the patterns in the stars. They used the stars to help them. They found the stars useful. They used their constellation stories to help explain the world around them. To the first Americans, the sky was a calendar, a clock, a road map, a teacher of moral values. These people told stories about the stars to teach their young the lifelong skills of navigating, the importance of the seasons to planting and harvesting crops and hunting. We're going to look at the Native American constellations today. Campfire of the North. This is the North Star, or home star. We know it as Polaris. It never moves, and it acts as a traveler's guide. Look for it if you are lost. It will help you find your way. All other stars will revolve around it. The Native Americans looked up at Polaris, and they called it Campfire of the North. Campfire was the center of the home. It warmed their homes, it cooked their food. We have next revolving man and revolving woman, also referred to as first man and first woman. These two constellations are located on either side of the North Star, or home fire. They are the official leaders of all other constellations. They never leave this area of the sky, and no other constellation interferes with their routine. We know that these are circumpolar constellations. They're always in the night sky, circling around Polaris. To the Native Americans, they believed that this arrangement of constellations established a law. The law in their culture stipulates that only one couple may live by one home fire. This shows us the importance of family to the Native American culture. Here we see the constellations Lizard and Butterfly. Literature mentions that revolving woman made many constellations for the sky until nearly every animal, bird, and insect had a counterpart in the sky. This shows us the importance of nature in the Native American culture and their respect for animals. Just like with the Greek constellation myths, there are many versions of some of the Native American constellation stories. Great Bear is one of those stories that has many different versions of the myth. Located on the Milky Way path, one Iroquois legend tells us that Great Bear was pursued by 3 Indian braves. The chase began at the beginning of time when the first Indian shot and struck the bear in the side with his bow and arrow. The wound wasn't serious, however, and the bear kept on running. He has been running across the sky ever since. The bear's path changes from season to season. In the autumn, it begins low in the northwest. During this season, the arrow wound of the bear opens slightly, and a little blood trickles down upon the land. It covers the leaves of the trees and dyes them red. And that is why we have autumn. Here, in this Native American constellation story, we see how the Native Americans used this story to explain something in the world around them. They explained the changing of the seasons, why the leaves change color. They believed they told the story that it was Great Bear's wound opening up and trickling down upon the leaves, and that's what caused the leaves to change colors, and that's why we have autumn. Of course, we know that there's science behind why we have autumn. But this is the story the Native Americans used. This is the myth, the legend that they told to explain the changing seasons. Here is the Native American constellation called Long Sash. This legend goes, Long Sash led his people westward to a new land, away from their enemies who were attacking villages, stealing animals, and killing families. Once settled in this new land, however, the people began to quarrel and fight among themselves. Long Sash declared, "You are hurting yourselves worse than your enemies hurt you. If you are to come to a place of your own, there can be no violence among you. You must decide whether you will follow me or take another trail." To the Navajo, Slender One, or Long Slash, represented planning and consideration. This legend helped the Native Americans teach their children about moral values, about being a good person, having good character, and making good choices. Here we have Dog Star, and this is a Cherokee myth. Legend tells us that all departed souls on their journey to the land of souls must pass two barking dogs. These dogs are Sirius, located in the Dog constellation, and Antares, located in the first great one in size. If the departed soul fed the first dog, but had nothing for the second dog, it would be left trapped in the sky forever between the two dogs. The Native Americans used this story to help teach their young moral values. They believed that in your life on earth, you needed to do many good deeds, be a good person, make good choices. And every good deed that you did, you were earning food for the dog stars. And when you died, if you had enough food to feed both dogs, you would be rewarded and go on to the land of souls. Our next constellation story is Rabbit Tracks. This constellation helped the Native Americans with the rules governing hunting. During the spring and early summer, when the open end of the tracks point upward, no one may hunt game animals. In the late fall, when the open end tips down toward earth, hunting season begins. Laws governing hunting were very strict, since the Navajo depended on game for their food. No hunting was allowed during an animal's mating season. Place of decision. North and east of Long Sash are two bright stars. This is where Long Sash's people sat to decide which path of life to follow, and thus it's called the place of decision. People looked to the stars for guidance whenever they came to a turning point in their lives. Again, we can see in the Native American constellation stories the importance of making good choices, of thinking about consequences, being a good person. Many of the Native American constellations show their respect for nature. We have Porcupine. Porcupine was given charge of the growth of trees and mountains. Here we have Horned Rattler. In the Greek mythology, this would be Hydra. This constellation is called Thunderbird. Navajo legend holds that the Thunderbird constellation carried all the clouds in his tail and rain under his wings. Thus, when the Thunderbird constellation is shining brightly in the sky, spring or the rainy season has arrived. We can see how the Native Americans used constellations to help them tell the seasons and the changing of seasons. This is Bear, different than Great Bear. Bear, a Navajo constellation, is close to Thunderbird and also tied into the legend of the changing seasons. When Bear is bright in the sky and the feather of the Thunderbird is just touching the nose of Bear, spring has arrived. This constellation was called Man with Legs. He represents adulthood, old age, and wisdom. This constellation was called First in Great Size. Here we have Spider God. Spider God sits in his web during the summertime, watching over the earth. To visit the land, he climbs down the Milky Way. Here we see the constellations along the Milky Way trail. The Milky Way was said by the Native Americans to be white cornmeal scattered across the sky by first man. Cornmeal is sacred, as is this constellation. It defines east, one of the directions, north, south, east, and west, and east is the direction which the Navajo used to pray and offer their daily prayers. Milky Way Trail, also known as the Path of Souls to the Algonquin. The Algonquin legend tells us that the Milky Way is the path that our souls take when we die. Sometimes referred to as the pathway of the souls, it is a mark upon the sky which arches across the heavens. We do not know where the path leads, or what sights they may behold. Each bright star, however, is a campfire blazing in the sky, where they have paused in their journey to look down on us, their people, as we huddle for warmth around our home fire. These have been the Native American constellation stories.